welcome to today's episode of Positively Geared. Good to see you, Lloyd.
Hi Alex, how's things?
I'm really well, thank you. We're both very excited, Lloyd. Another great guest in the studio today, Wayne Bemet, former Navy for 19 years. He's since over the past 3 years set himself up in the financial services industry. What I love about Wayne's business, just speaking to him before he came on, is that it's a veteran-owned and founded business. So he's very much targeting his own niche market, or specialising, if you like. Welcome, Wayne. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks very much for having me. It's great to be here.
Wayne, we were talking off air just sort of before we jumped in the booth, and your story is really fascinating. With a military background, you've probably done a lot of things that us civilians don't get to do. Tell us about your story.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. It's an interesting one. So I joined the Navy a little bit older than most people. I was 24 when I joined. Followed my younger brother in, actually. So he'd sort of done the hard yards before I did. I saw what a great time he was having, thought I could do that. And it set me up for a wonderful career. So I served 19 years in the Navy. Have no real gripes about it, apart from some injuries that I sustained, which led to me being medically discharged 2017. So again, a really nice career, but it also was integral in having those experiences for my business now. So military are very good with, they trust their own generally. So if your name's good, the good bloke rule applies generally, and you've had those great experiences. In business, I'm finding people are coming out the woodwork to reconnect because they've had that great experience. We've had shared experiences, and we're of the point of view that veterans really understand their own community and are in a better position than most to help.
It's interesting, and we're going to sort of touch on it when we speak about what you're doing now in the financial services industry. But what we always like to understand is sort of what led you to make that decision, but also what led you to join the Navy at the time. Particularly that you started later. Was it sort of not knowing what to do as a career, or?
Yeah, it was exactly that. I was living on the Central Coast. I'd travelled a little bit, worked in pubs. I was a glassy, dug holes on the side of the road and on the railway. My dad was a railway surveyor, so he got me a job digging drainage on the side of the tracks. So I'd bounced around a few jobs like that, but really following my younger brother in, Azza. He's a really good guy. He was having these excellent experiences. He's 2.5 years younger than me. And I was at that stage in my life where I wanted to get something going. I had quite a steady girlfriend, which is now my wife, so it worked out nicely. But I wanted something more, something bigger than myself. I knew I had something to contribute, but I wasn't quite sure. So joining the Navy, it was certainly put myself outside of my comfort zone. And that was a real conscious decision that I wanted to do to make a change in my life for the positive. So, and the Navy certainly provided me with that opportunity and lived consistently outside that comfort zone for around about 19 years, which led me to try different things. But I think it served me well on the outside as well. So not within military. So being a new business owner and operator and learning those lessons and being outside of that comfort zone, it was not foreign to me. So I was really quite comfortable being uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Lloyd, what a lot of listeners might not know about you is that your old fellow was also an ex-military veteran.
Yeah, that's correct, Alex. Yeah, my dad was actually in the Second World War. So he fought in New Guinea in the Middle East for the whole time, 1939 to 1945. And as a result, my mum has benefited from the Department of Veterans Affairs that have looked after her pretty well since. So quite familiar with that. So there's quite a few synergies there.
I think that's a great sort of foray into where this conversation can lead, Wayne, because obviously that's now your bread and butter, isn't it?
It is. So people have varying experiences with Department of Veteran Affairs. So if I'm talking about my personal experience, mine was quite positive, but I was really quite proactive in, I didn't quite know when to start when I had my injuries back in 2017. So a lot of members try to do it themselves, but it's very, very complicated and it can get out of hand really quickly. And when you're talking with something like a medical discharge or something like that, it affects the rest of your life. So I decided to enlist some legal advice quite early in the process, which has set me up very nicely, which has afforded me to get a great result from DVA, look after my family for the rest of their life, but it's allowed me to grow my business slowly and very carefully based on a plan that I had probably through a few surgeries. I had 3 surgeries really quite quickly on my knees. And during my time on the lounge, watching Netflix and whatever, scribble pads, visions for business, had that really sort of inception moment. So that was all on the back of, DVA made life very comfortable for me and it enabled me to carry on with life because at the time I was still only 42 years old, young family, 2 young boys who I wanted to set a great example for. And I wanted to do something else with my life. I wasn't ready to sit on the lounge for the next 30 years and just watch life go by essentially.
And to your credit, Wayne, because I mean, it would have been really easy to possibly go down in that direction, particularly that, correct me if I'm wrong, after coming out of a military career, you guys are generally well looked after, I'd imagine.
Yeah, we are generally. So our superannuation scheme's quite good as long as you're doing enough time. We have great experiences. So, we do get looked after to a certain extent. Military's very good whilst you're in, clothing you, feeding you, shipping you around the world to have these amazing experiences, which I was fortunate enough to have. But one thing they don't really sort of give any real guidance is around their finances. And that's, something we'll talk around today. So that's, one of the problems that me and my company is trying to solve is veterans making the most of their time in service. So it's all well and good to come out after, say, 15 years with a chest full of medals, which is fantastic. You've served your nation, well done. But you're a long time retired, and the way government's spending at the moment, I don't think there's going to be an age pension, or they won't have the capacity to provide us a pension as we know it now. So I think self-funded retiring is a big issue, and particularly with our military guys taking those steps, making the most of their time financially so they can transition out, discharge, and keep rolling when they get out of the military, being financially successful. So when they walk out the gate for the last time, they're not seeing a stop sign. They're actually punching through that stop sign and getting on with life because they've talked to a company like us or any financial professional that they're comfortable with, getting a plan, maybe 12 months out before they're discharged and then enacting that plan moving forward.
Wayne, so was that a catalyst for you wanting to start your business as such and going into the financial services industry?
Certainly was, yeah. So going through the experience was extremely stressful, particularly I had a young family. Mortgage, all those usual pressures from a family man, and I loved my job as well. So the more I got through the experience, the more surgeries, the more doctors I'd seen, getting my mental space right was a big deal as well, because I had this feeling that my career had been snatched away from me. And, I loved getting up of a morning, putting my flight suit on and driving up the road and go flying a couple of times a week. So it was really a job that I identified with and that I could talk to the children about. So the boys would see me walk out the door of a morning, my flight suit and my bag, and come back and what did you do today? I did some flying. But getting back to the stressful part of it, I thought there had to be some good that can come out of what I was experiencing, and also had the thought that it can't be only me that's having this experience. So I was very careful in taking notes and really absorbing the experience, which was quite full on, to be honest, but making sure that if I had a small win, why did I have that small win? And can I pass that advice on to others so they can be in a better position than what they would have been?
Lloyd, a common theme across our series of podcasts and your book Positively Geared is that in order to build something, rule number one, it's never overnight. We're just having a bit of a chuckle about that before we jumped in the booth. But also having the right team behind you. And we often refer to it as the dream team. Lloyd, possibly you can once again reiterate what that dream team is in basic terms. And Wayne, we'd love for you to build upon that within your services and what that looks like for you guys.
Well, Alex, I think obviously the dream team that we've spoken a lot about is the group of professionals that can help you achieve your goals. So in terms of building up your wealth, that can include, your financial planner or your financial advisor, your mortgage broker, which are not necessarily the same people, of course. You'll have your accountant, which is very important. You'll have your solicitor or your conveyancer. And then, of course, as we've spoken about, we've also got your builder and all those kind of people as well. They're all very important to helping you achieve your wealth. You need that advice from different people. There's not any single one person who can give all that advice. For example, I'm qualified in property, but I can't give legal advice and I can't give financial advice. So that's why I recommend building that dream team around people, and that's why I do that for my clients. But yeah, so I think, there's a lot of synergies here, and I think that I'd really love to hear Wayne's take on that and how he feels about that.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. That makes perfect sense from my approach as well, not just from a financial point of view, but from a holistic life point. So from my background in military, going through that discharge process, it's absolutely crucial to have a team around you. And you might not realize it at the time, but you may have the makings of a team already. So look, I was very fortunate during my discharge that my family unit was very strong, had a strong group of friends. And I didn't know it yet, but I also potentially had some strong business contacts on the outside who were genuinely interested in helping out a veteran come out of a bit of a tight spot. So, and we're of the opinion as well that no one issue should be treated in isolation. So if you're discharging, obviously it's great to have your finance, and that's where our specialty does come in. It's centered around solving that financial problem for you. But there's so much more to consider discharging from the military, because you've had a lot of different experiences, like you're saying, Alex, that the general public just doesn't have and they don't need to have. That's why we sign on the dotted line and go overseas and do the job. So, getting someone in charge of your mental health, making sure, asking those key questions, are you okay? How's your physical health? Having a team around that. It's all around that holistic approach around not just finance, not just mental health, not just physical health, and, not just community as well. So you might start with quite a small community of friends, but they get taken away from you very quickly. So I liken it to, I was playing first grade, kicking goals, going really well. Then I was injured, got put on the bench while the process was going through. And then I was yanked out of the system really quite quickly when my service was no longer required. So not only did I lose my identity, I lost a very close group of friends that I had that camaraderie with on a daily basis. I probably stay in contact with a handful just now of the really close friends that are still in military, which is really important for me. But again, it's all part of that holistic solution of, just because you've left the military doesn't mean you have to completely leave that community. And look, my business, I think, is a great tool to keep me involved within the military. So, I love doing things like we sponsor the Navy Rugby League men's and women's team. So, look, I'm a rugby league tragic, and anything I can do to still be involved with defence, but also be involved with some sort of rugby league is fantastic. So, that's how we like to be involved and how we like to treat any discharge and being part of a community.
Wayne, just listening to you speak, it really strikes a chord with me where, you've gone through a lot of adjustment, and no doubt the people that you're working with are also going through that. Is that what drives the purpose behind what you do now predominantly? Are there any other drivers, strictly speaking, in terms of looking at finance specifically as an avenue you went down?
Yeah, I think it comes down to a couple of personal issues that I've identified with myself. Look, I've always been an extremely competitive person. I like to hire myself in higher regard, or I like to achieve. So, come from quite a modest background. I don't use this term derogatory, but I was a household kid on the Central Coast. Mum and Dad were good, hard, honest workers, but they didn't have much cash. But look, I always had that drive to do something. I didn't know what it was going to be, but I knew I wanted to do something significant. And when the opportunity with national service, serving my country, came around, it was like a duck to water. I really enjoyed it. And I believe it shaped me as a man now into the future. Another driver is for giving back to my defence community. I believe that defence has given me a life that I wouldn't have otherwise have had. They've given me so many great positive experiences. It didn't end that positively in terms of injuries, but it's given me an income and life experience so I can buy a house, build my family wealth, be a solid role model for my two sons who are 16 and 13. So it's that real sort of formative years and an impressionable age. But mostly I want to help my members solve a problem. That this problem is making most of your time in service financially, and also when you transition that you hit the ground running financially. We're finding that if you have your finances in order, everything will kind of fall in place around you. But why do we get up to go to work every day? Mostly, okay, it's for a wage. So these guys and girls are getting up every day, getting paid like the rest of us. So, when you lose that ability, or you don't know how to make the best advantage of that ability and the money that's coming in, and look, defence is on pretty good money these days, and particularly with allowances and a lot of travel going on, I'm actually making our company's mission for our members to make the most of their time financially. So when it's time to come out, they can have options like starting their own business or taking 12 months off while they transition to another career.
Wayne, I find that really inspirational. I think that's fantastic. When you started your business, you're in the military, and then you got into your business. How was that transition? And what did it feel like suddenly becoming a business owner and having to wear all those hats? Did you have some mentors? Did you have to do some courses to learn how to do business bank accounts and to learn how to set up a company structure and all those sort of things about managing a business?
Yeah, it was overwhelming at the start because, I call it my second life. So I've had my military life, which is great, but now it's time for my second life, and second life with purpose. So a mentor of mine, Michael Newton, so he's a friend of the family. We've known each other for decades. He has his own company, Galaxy Finance and Property Group on the Central Coast. So I was in between surgeries, feeling sorry for myself. He basically just got hold of me and said, "Are you okay?" The answer was, "Not really," but we recently reunited after we didn't really see each other for quite a while. So the family had started coming back together. But he basically, whilst I was still injured and recovering, he brought me into his business and basically showed me the ropes. Initially, it was just from a mortgage broking point of view and learning those base level financial details and practices, studying, doing your mortgage broking courses, being used to getting in front of people and having the right conversations and discovering the right information and drawing it out of them. So, the first 12 months was initially that, getting my head around finance and the business and how we can help people. The next transition was I took to it quite well, and I was doing pretty well under Michael's tutelage. So I've been toying with the idea of, okay, I think there's a need for this in the Australian Defence Force. Talking to people that I've served with for a very long time, and they've been in and out of service, or they might have got out then got back in because they weren't quite financially prepared. That is quite common as well. So I had this idea of what we're doing here. Why don't we do it just for military? I understand them because military has a very distinct way that they pay. The pay slips are structured really quite confusingly. So my value was, okay, I've been looking at these for 20 years. I know what all these allowances mean. So then it was educating the BDMs on, okay, what does a military pay slip look like? So we were getting some really good results around that because I was essentially the chief advisor for Michael's company in mortgage broking. Then I really wanted more of a holistic take. So not just mortgage broking, not just financial planning, not just property, not just, budget assistance or counselling. I wanted to entail it all in some sort of package. So I started studying as a financial planner, was successful in that to the point where I got set up with my own corporate company and corporate representative. So we were able to set up National Service Financial as its own standalone, not just as a mortgage broker working for my mentor, Michael. And we did some really cool stuff around logos. And I really wanted my community to identify that we are just military. We are here for you guys. There's no one else in the country doing what I'm doing. Sure, there may be people that are flogging off some crappy properties to defence members, but that's all they're doing. There's a property, give us your money, now go away. Or there's a home loan, give us your money, go away. We don't want to talk to you again. We're all about engagement and engaging our community. So, if we're doing your finance for a house or an investment property, we like to have it as part of a holistic financial plan. So the great thing about Defence is they can actually salary package any financial advice that they're getting. So there's obvious benefits to that. So that's been a nice little thing that resonates with the members as well because, they're getting to reduce their taxable income, but they're also getting a financial plan in their back pocket from someone who's had very similar experiences to them and setting them up for the future.
It's interesting you say that because I know quite a few people in the military and the Navy, even friends of mine, and when they go for loans, they've often got brokers who just don't understand how to read the pay slips and it really confuses them. I think having someone like you who really understands that niche, that'll really benefit people. But I think it's fantastic having someone like you who actually specialises to help those people because I think we've got people coming out of the military, they will not really have been educated. I'm always big on the fact that generally people don't get educated financially anyway, right from when you're at school. And it probably could be even worse when you're in the military because you're sort of closed away there, you're working for the military, you're serving your country, doing all these great things, but you're just sort of getting your pay every fortnight or every month whenever you get paid. But then at some stage, that's going to come to an end. You get discharged and then you don't have that education, not sure what you're going to go next. And that can potentially involve, people getting a little bit depressed and all that kind of stuff. So I think what you're doing is a fantastic thing from that perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Lloyd. And the education piece is key for me as well, particularly when you go from some of the guys and girls join quite young. So you can join when I think it's 16 years and 9 months, which is insane. It's extremely young. I was fortunate I joined a little bit older, so I've had some life experience behind me in and out of jobs, but primarily I'd had that life experience. But some of these people are coming through they might have just stepped out from their school jobs. So this could be just working at Macca's, pushing trolleys at Coles. All of a sudden they're stepping into quite a decent high-paid job, which they're not quite ready for, as in finances are just thrust at them. They know they're going to get paid every second Thursday, and the initial reaction is, I know it was mine back when I was a seaman in the Navy. Seaman CSO was, how good is this? All this money's coming in. I can go buy some shiny things. But there's a time and place where you've got to get that out of your system and reset and start going, okay, what are we going to do with this surplus?
Wayne, Lloyd and I speak a lot about building a property portfolio, and that's something that obviously doesn't happen overnight. It can take 10 to 15, 20 years of being in the game to work towards an end goal, and everything is geared towards knowing why you're doing it and working towards an end goal. What I'm quite intrigued to ask you is that finding the experience you've had transitioning from military into your current role, I would say it's safe to say that most people will go through that similar experience with your similar background. How do you deal with helping guide them through investing financially where they've already experienced a lot of challenges just mentally and in your instance physically also to move into life after military? Do you find that you face similar experiences where people might want that instant gratification or, they're not seeing that their portfolio is maturing as quickly as they'd like to?
Yeah, I'm finding that to a certain extent. Some people are quite realistic in where they are within their life. So they've just discharged. They're quite aware of where they are. They're acutely aware, but some aren't. Some walk out. Could be a generational thing. So I don't want to put any BS on Gen Y. I don't want to do that. But some generations will come out and expect that instant gratification. But what we're finding is if we are approaching it from a solid foundations building up. So when people come to see us, it's not necessarily about their finances straight up. It's generally about how their discharge has gone and if there's anything left to tie down or tidy up before they move on to the next step. So I've been through the process of going through DVA, getting my incapacity points, having the surgeries with my knees and all the rest of it. So I know my way around the system. So I probe and ask questions. Okay, before we talk about any of these aspirations around property and finance, let's see where you are in your transition and let's make sure you've ticked all your boxes first. So once we've got that solid foundations, you've ticked all your boxes, you may receive some compensation. You may be on what's called a Class A pension for people who have been medically discharged, and that's a lifetime pension. So once you you get those foundations started, the conversations after that are quite easy and less emotive. So the sooner we can take emotion out of the situation, the better, and just calm everything down.
You know, the real parallel here is the term you've just keep using, foundations. And, you know, Lloyd, first chapter in your books, Know Your Why. Knowing your why is absolutely critical to knowing what sort of foundation you're building. Although you guys have very different stories and have gone on different paths, Lloyd, you know, you went through a similar experience where you were a teacher and probably never would have imagined at the time where you would sort of head. How important is it to know your why and also to be able to be malleable in terms of that changing over time?
Well, you really can't do anything without really knowing what you're trying to do. You really do need to have those goals in place and know where you want to head. And, you know, for me, when I was a teacher, as discussed many times and we've pointed out in the book, I was on a reasonably low income, particularly when I was a peripatetic teacher. I wasn't even employed full time. So that meant I had no superannuation at all sorts of things that were going through my mind about how I'd set myself up for the future. That's why I got into investing. I thought I'd need to take control of my financial well-being for the future. But that was really knowing my why. That was really like, I need to have financial stability in the future because I knew I would have a family to look after and things like that at some point in the future. Things like having my dream house and everything like that, those goals came later. It wasn't my dream, 20 years ago just to have that, dream house on the water or something. That wasn't the original why. The why was really about setting myself up financially that I wasn't doing as a teacher at the time. And I think that's important with anything we do. And I think there's a lot of synergies there with what Wayne does. And I think the other thing that is really important, as we've spoken a lot about, Alex, is that it's important to get assistance from people who have done what you're trying to do yourself. And that's what I always advocate when people are, for example, trying to invest in property and using, say, services of a buyer's agent, that they should be using someone who's got a good property portfolio and got that experience. And I think Wayne's been through the military, so he knows exactly where people are coming from. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Military is a very tight community, particularly when you're serving on a ship. So I was a junior sailor at one stage. So you had up to 80 young men living in a very confined space, sleeping 3 high. So everyone had an opinion on most things, whether it be right or wrong. A lot of the stuff we're getting is that, well, my mate said this, or Dave from down the pub recommended I buy this property. I said, well, you can take notice of those people if you like. That's quite okay, but you're probably going to go down a very different path. Whereas if you come talk to us as a professional, we can actually sit down outside of a pub and talk about your holistic financial situation and where you want to go. So our big problem solving is where you are now, where you want to go, and how do we bridge that gap.
Wayne, just building on what Lloyd mentioned, speaking about his space where, it's seeking out a buyer's agent, seeking out the right solicitor, financial services. One thing that we sort of haven't really dug too deep into is mentorship. And I suppose in many respects, that's what Lloyd's sort of saying, seeking out people that have done what you want to do. I know that you've got a mentor who's here with us today. How important was it to you to find a mentor? And for people listening that might not know who to seek out, what advice could you give them?
Oh, it's really a life-changing experience for me. My military service really tied me into the value of a mentor. So we're always encouraged to, once we started hitting some more senior ranks, you had to have your own little ball of clay that you needed to mold, not necessarily in your own image or anything like that, but molding those values and attitudes that you want to see how a person grows or how a sailor grows, progressing through the ranks. And so not just progressing professionally, but also progressing personally. So I've had some great mentors in the military over year, which I'm extremely, extremely grateful for. So I knew the value of a mentor before I got out. Then when I did get out, I knew Michael had been in this industry for quite a while. He's set up and run very successful businesses, including his current one. So it was just an easy conversation to have. So I think in a mentor, you need to be able to have those difficult conversations, having those heart-to-heart. It's easy for Michael and I because we've known each other for quite a while. But if you're just starting out or you're looking for someone as a mentor, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in person at the time. It can be someone that you're following in the media, like Lloyd, for instance, someone that's written a book, someone that has those same values and attitudes that you have or that you aspire to. So that would be my biggest point of advice.
Lloyd, what's your view on mentorship, building upon what Wayne's just mentioned?
I think Wayne said something really good just then, that it doesn't actually have to be someone in person. It can be someone that you aspire to. I think mentors are really important. I think you should seek out people and ask for help and try to get some kind of education from them, to help you get to where you want to get to. However, some of the best mentors can be just people that you can learn from because you aspire to what they do. And that could be, some very high profile people that you just follow their blogs, follow their social media. That could be some mentoring. So look, I do that. I aspire to people who are not necessarily people that I would be speaking to all the time in terms of mentoring, but I aspire to them and find them very motivational. I think that's very important. But you definitely do need to really surround yourself by those kind of things and those kind of people that will help you sort of lift your game.
Yeah, and I think that's important, Lloyd. I think it doesn't necessarily have to be one person or one source. Some of the best experiences I had through military were looking at certain ways, habits, attitudes from one person that I said, you know what, that is rubbish. I do not want to be that. But on the other hand, I might see some traits and values and performance from another person and go, that's where I want to be. So I'd take a little bit from that person. I'd know what I didn't want, which was, I think, really important in my development, and sort of mould it into that ball. And as you work it out through a leadership perspective, it gets you going where you want to go.
Yeah, and I also think that it doesn't have to be in your own profession either. Like, you can have a role model who might be in sport. They could be a tennis player or a golfer or something like that. It doesn't have to be like, in property or in finance just because that's the profession you're in. It could be someone that you just like their values.
And even seeking out mentors for different aspects of your life. So, you might have a 10 out of 10 working career, but your family life might be a 3 out of 10. So who are the people you need to seek out to fill up those cups? Wayne, I just want to touch on the topic of discipline. Discipline being big in the military. Discipline is one of the probably best skill set you can have in life if you've got no qualifications in anything else, in terms of having a successful relationship, going to the gym and losing weight, building a portfolio of properties. How was your military teachings in that space? Because I think discipline's probably a big part of your time in the military. How's that impacted upon your business career now?
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, actually, Alex, because I take it kind of for granted. Having 19 years of living in that community, that employment, it's extremely important, as in it just gives you structure and a set of values to live your life by. And with the military, if you don't adjust to that culture and those set of values, there's repercussions, and people find out very quickly whether the military's for them or not, which is okay because it's not for everyone. Certain people thrive in that. For me, my personality, I did need that discipline and structure in my early 20s just to give me direction. I knew where I wanted to go roughly, but I didn't quite know how to do it or didn't have the discipline on the outside to achieve that. So what the military does is it instills that level of discipline in you, but it also holds you accountable, which I think is really important as part of a mentor in any team that you form or are part of. If you don't have accountability, it's very easy to take the back seat, lose your discipline, and watch everything go to poo. So I think accountability goes hand in hand with discipline. Setting up my new business, as you guys can relate to, it's big hours. When someone says no, you go, okay, what's the next strategy? It's that consistent discipline and drive that I think I had within me anyway, but the military just sort of doubled down on it. So even though I've been out for 3.5 years, it's a characteristic that I've found absolutely crucial in starting up a new venture. Particularly, it was my first venture. I'd done the right things and got the right people around me, and admitted my shortcomings. Certainly wasn't one to go out, well, I've done this, this and this, so I now can come out and do, we call it the real world, and do this. That's absolutely rubbish. So I think it was very key of me to know my shortcomings, who could help me fix that, and on the back of discipline and accountability, help take my inception of a company, actually take action, set it up, and go after my niche market with that holistic attitude that wants to help, and it's working. It's going great.
I think that's really awesome, Wayne. I mean, we've sort of touched on discipline. Accountability is another topic that we gravitate towards over our series. Being accountable, I suppose, in the property world, and Lloyd, I'll get you to shed some light on this in a moment. It's understanding when you're going on that journey of building a portfolio of properties, you can't bury your head in the sand and think, well, this one's performing okay when it's not. It's really important that you can be accountable and look at the numbers, look at the data, look at the facts, use that to move forward.
Yeah, you're spot on. Particularly in this economic environment, there's so much noise in the media around what property markets are doing, what the stock market's doing or not doing. And there's a lot of hype through all the news channels. You're getting generally that same message. But if you've got the discipline and you've got that team around you that knows, okay, I know property or my financial plan is a long-term strategy, you can help block that out.
That's so true. I get questions every day about, should I be buying property now and all that kind of stuff. And, I keep reminding people that it's about your long-term plan because, what you're wanting to achieve in 10 years' time, achieving those goals is not going to really relate back to what was happening in the year 2020 and if anything happened in the property market specifically then. And the other thing is that, as you're saying, Alex, accountability is so important. I help people set strategies, but then part of my role is to help people keep accountable. to that. So, you have all these plans in place, and then suddenly people decide not to do anything because it's like they're worried about something that's happening in the property markets and all this kind of stuff. You've really got to keep on with your goals. And, as for those questions, it's not really a matter about if now is the right time to be buying a property, for example. It's really about where should I be buying for my current strategy and what's going to work for me and everything like that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people actually listening to this episode right now who know that I'm talking about them, who need to be kept accountable. So I do that all the time. That's part of my role, I guess, because, I'd like to see people achieve their dreams. You set your dreams, but then you've got to actually carry through with that. You can't have these dreams and then do nothing about it.
And the two are so interconnected, discipline and accountability. I mean, it's no different to hiring a personal trainer. They put you on the right food program. They do your whole weight program, and then they drive past McDonald's the next day and see you downing a large Big Mac meal.
You've been watching me?
I had a hunch.
No, I totally agree. Accountability's been massive for me. So, not only am I accountable to my family for my personal life, but accountable to certain people in my business life as well.
Wayne, I want to discuss with you white noise in investing. So, and Lloyd sort of briefly went on that tangent. So there's so much talk in the media about what markets are going to do. Obviously, for the first time in our lifetimes, we're experiencing an unprecedented pandemic. Typically, what people do in times of uncertainty is they sit on the fence, and rightfully so in many instances. I mean, for people that their primary residence might be their main source of wealth for their retirement, it's understandable that people are like that way. Just going back to long-term strategizing, how do you help your customer base, particularly with their military background, deal with working through all the white noise of the media and prices going down one month and up the next?
Yeah, and there is a lot of white noise going towards black noise. It's getting that loud. But we were really conscious to make sure we got out in front of our clientele during the COVID experience. I know we're still going ahead with that, but back in March, April, May, where it was really full on and it just sort of spread really quickly, there was a lot of speculation. So for me, this has been the year of speculation across many fronts and asset classes. So we were quite willing to get in front of our clients and our community through Facebook events, just a Facebook Live event of me giving my opinion on what's happening and reinforcing those ideas around long-term investments and why you shouldn't panic right now. Because it was very easy for a lot of people to actually panic, sell down everything, and then sit on the fence. For us, that was the absolute worst thing that anyone can do. And there were people that did do that because they couldn't control their emotion. So emotion was key here as well. But the clients that really trusted our advice and where we wanted to take them, I made sure when we put their plans together and we have these relationships, and it's just not transactional for us. There's a relationship there with our client. We double down. This is a long-term investment. You will have adversity in the market. Sure, we had a lot of adversity and we hadn't seen anything like this since GFC 08, but two very different events. So GFC 08 was a financial event based on crappy banking practices and a whole heap of other stuff. Australia was not in a great place to handle that. Whereas you go forward to COVID-19 and the pandemic, it's a health-based event with financial repercussions. So two very different events. And as a country, we're actually in a better place to handle this event than we were, say, 11, 12 years ago. So that's the big difference for us in cutting through that noise.
Lloyd, the other side of the coin, in line with what Wayne's just spoken about, is the opportunity which this market possibly presents for some people. Now, we're seeing at the moment the banks are obviously doing their part to give financial support to a lot of people. Assuming that somebody's in a position where they don't need to seek financial hardship, their serviceability is good, and they are in a position where they can borrow and buy at the moment. Where are some of those opportunities at the moment, or are you seeing opportunities at the moment in the current market?
Yeah, Alex, that's a very good question. Look, it is becoming a buyer's market. There are opportunities out there, but it's not as big a deal as what the media and some economists would lead us to believe. So just as an example, say in May, for example, Sydney property prices fell by 0.4%. In June, there was a decline of 2%. So they're pretty much stagnating. They're not falling by 20, 30, 40% and anything like that. And I think that we were not going to see massive falls because the government stimulus packages are continuing, even with phase 2 of Job Seeker and JobKeeper. So there are opportunities, but there's also a shortage of stock on the market. And regional communities are not really being hit either. They're mostly fairly virus-free in many areas. And because there's a lack of stock and there's still buyers in the market, that's propping things up pretty well. So there are opportunities to negotiate, in certain areas, in certain suburbs. But certainly, probably better opportunities than there was at the start of the year. But again, I would be looking at people just to get their finance in order, make sure they can get a loan and everything, and then remember their long-term goals and get a deal that actually suits them more than just trying to think that they can get a deal that's 30% under market value or something.
Yeah, what we're finding with our client base, Lloyd, is people that can are actually doing at the moment. So the unique thing about our defence community is they're essential service, so defending the nation. So their income hasn't been disrupted at all. So they can plan with a level of certainty that they're still going to have income for however long they're serving. So it's business as usual for a lot of these clients. So for want of a better word, we're finding out that part of the client base, bulletproof in financial terms, as in, if they're still wondering about whether they should get off the fence and do what they want to do within, whether it be investing in property, getting a financial plan, looking at the stock market, they can have great confidence in, okay, the key thing that we need all around this is continuing income. And that's something that they have. They just need someone to basically hold their hand for a little bit, give them a little bit of a cuddle, but also maybe a headlock at the same time, say, you're actually in a really good position. You can do something if you want to.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Wayne. And that's the same with the majority of our clients. Really is business as usual, particularly for our clients that have stable incomes and haven't been affected too much and anything like that. People can see that there's still good opportunities and they're looking at their long-term goals. And most people, particularly savvy buyers, are not really too worried about, what the markets are doing because they're sort of seeing past that white noise. And particularly because a lot of what we do is educate people and things like that. So I think there's probably a lot of people sitting on the fence that are not necessarily our current clients, but maybe people that are listening to Positively Geared episodes that are sort of wondering whether they should be investing in and wondering about the markets and things like that. And I guess that's why we're sort of here to shed a bit of light on that and get rid of a bit of that white noise. But in general, it's been business as usual for us, the whole way through the pandemic.
And Lloyd, long-term planning is really it, isn't it? I think now's as pertinent a time as ever to really stick to the script. That effectively allows you to avoid being pulled one direction or the other because it's working towards that longer-term goal, isn't it?
Well, that's right, Alex. And the other thing is that, I do have clients who have suffered financially during the pandemic and they may be on JobKeeper or they may run a business that they've lost a significant amount of income. And even new clients that come to us and they want to do something but they can't borrow just at the moment, that's fine with us because I sit down with them and we actually plan their strategy and put them in touch with a mortgage broker. And it might be 3 or 4 months before they can get a loan, but we plan out a strategy and a roadmap during this time frame. There's no reason that people can't start at least planning. I'm really big on people who really should be able to get themselves in a better financial position for the future, particularly people who are sort of living from paycheck to paycheck. And I'd like to sort of see them, start investing so that if we go through something like this in the future, they're not so worried about things because they're setting up a bit of an investment portfolio on the side that actually pays them some income.
Yeah, that's a great point, Lloyd. We're finding that this pandemic caught a lot of people essentially with their pants down. It was so unexpected. No one's seen this coming at all. So the people who did have those good financial habits or had a plan in place maybe had a buffer that could see them through something like this, but a lot of people didn't. So we're finding a lot of people have taken this opportunity, particularly when we were locked down there for a little while. A lot of people are watching podcasts, getting information, but also taking stock of where they are and maybe how they can do things better when this thing eventually blows over.
That's exactly it, Wayne. And I think that's, I guess, the byproduct of, speaking about opportunity through COVID, which is, it's a great time to learn, but also to unlearn. So possibly going over old bad habits, whether it's financially living paycheck to paycheck, as Lloyd just mentioned, it's getting a better financial model in place, starting from grassroots, from where's your money going every week when the pay comes in, and sort of starting from there.
Yeah, it's important that when people do have these epiphanies, as I like to call them, that they don't take the sledgehammer approach. So that sledgehammer is that real impulsive, emotive approach is we're going to stop spending everything, which it simply doesn't work. It's a bit like dieting, right? So, if I'm not going to eat bread, I'm not going to do this or that, I'm just going to totally cut it out. It just doesn't work. So
never works.
For our clients, it's really important to have a lifestyle. That's why we get up every day, particularly in that Australian society, in that culture. We work to live, not the other way around, like in some societies around the world. So it's really important that any plans that we come up with the clients, that it complements their lifestyle and doesn't denigrate it.
I think the thing that I'm always quite big on is the fact that, job security, and it's been proven that there's no such thing as job security. I guess just using myself as an example, my property portfolio is positively geared. If something was to happen to my business, if I, didn't have any clients because, we had a big pandemic and no one wanted to buy property or something, I've still got income from my property portfolio moving forward. And that's kind of the message I want to get through to everybody, that if you've got a job, that in itself is not good enough to think that that's security for you. And it's been proven. No one at the start of this year would have imagined the amount of incomes and jobs that have been lost. And we're not just talking about one industry. I mean, we're talking about, cafes, restaurants, gyms and airlines and all sorts of things. People who thought they had good, stable jobs for life. So I think it's really important to plan and set up multiple sources of income. If you can set up income from other sources, then you're not so reliant on one sort of income. If something happens, you're not going to be stressed. I can't stress enough. Have a buffer and don't live paycheck to paycheck. And again, that's not going to happen overnight, but you can start planning that and build on that into the future. Set a roadmap, set a strategy to make that happen.
It's so true, Lloyd. And I mean, it's just really having that paradigm shift, isn't it? From your beliefs around money, around work. I mean, without getting overly philosophical, and Lloyd, I know that you talk about this in your book, and it's a big part of your why, and it's building something bigger for the future. I think a lot of people do get caught up in the 9-to-5 daily grind. And what actually happens is you forget that as much as you want to love what you do and be passionate about it, work should be a vehicle to build a life outside of work. Wayne, you've probably seen, particularly from people coming out of the military, including yourself, that's really hard to do.
It really is. Employment in the Defence Force, it's quite an immersive experience. So it's highly specialised in the position. So, for example, my old job was controlling fast jet aircraft out of the back of another jet. So that was quite an immersive experience. You had to live and breathe it every single day just to be up to speed and make sure you're professional and maintaining those standards. And that can be said for a lot of the jobs within defence. So people get immersed in those jobs, particularly when you step onto a ship, you go out off the east coast of Australia and you might be out there for a couple of weeks. That is your life. Everything's immersive and you kind of forget about what's going on out in the real world, i.e. your family and your finances. So our position is that the more work that you can put into having something set up outside of your job to take advantage of that financial position that you find yourself in, it'll ease some of the stress at work as well. So it's stressful enough in the ADF when you're going out to sea and going on deployments. But if you know in the back pocket, you go, okay, I've got a financial plan, finances are in order, the family's okay, it just takes a lot of that stress away. From my personal experience, way more effective at work. You're not worrying about that 9-to-5 grind outside of work with the family as well.
Wayne, it's been really great having you with us today. Lloyd, I know that there's probably so much that you've even got out of this, just hearing a different side to a similar story.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. I think both of us have, and I'm sure all our listeners have. It's been really inspiring, and I thank you actually for doing what you do. It's been really good.
No, thank you guys. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks again.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Lloyd.
Cheers, Alex.